So my solipsism video was good, but it didn't exactly answer the question of what does it mean for solipsism to be very useful. So I'm going to attempt to do that now. Basically, all I said in the other video with respect to that is that it increases the ability for someone to customize their day, which was a pretty vague notion. So let me try to break it down. You basically no longer have probability as a solipsist. Everything is biased towards you or your favoritism because you are generating, this reality. So an interesting field, if you like neuroscience and updates in neuroscience, is active inference, right? You no longer have this prediction error from predictive processing. I mean, you may have it, but you never really predict anything. You sort of just live your life. You could kind of like visualize things as a manifestation, and there's a big prediction error because, like I've said in some of the metaphysics videos, when you try to think of what you want, you never achieve it. You get something either worse or better because you can't, there's no such thing as precision manifestation. I don't care what you say, how you got rich, how you got successful, how you got your PhD. You never picked your dissertation. You never picked the exact thing you wanted to a T, in terms of especially a partner, for example. Maybe a car, but not a partner, and not their dynamics were not what you expected. So there's that. But active inference does have a generative capacity perspective to it from a solipsistic lens. And what I mean by that is quite simple. It goes back to this idea I mentioned just now, favoritism or biased. The network or the reality is biased. What that means is you're generating your reality literally at what is known as planiforming in the book that I shared in the thumbnail of that video, The Instrumentality of Mankind. Planiforming is essentially is tachyonic generation, or faster than entanglement generation. Literally, you're at the grocery store, you're a solipsist, or any type of mystically aware entity who presupposes or likes to experiment with generative, visualization or thought experiments, not to be confused with predictions or modeling your experience. So you turn the corner. Whatever you see, whether it be just some random ass person or someone that is generative in real time. This whole idea of what is it, 300,000, I don't want to butcher it, there's 300,000 kilometers per second. This is not the speed limit of the cosmos. There is no speed limit to the cosmos. It's not 0 to 100, it's 0 to infinity and infinity to infinity 2. Infinity times 7. So it gets very heady, right? And then of course you cannot, a good reason to understand why solipsism is useful is that it's not always going to be with you. First of all, it can be, for a beginner in ontology, it can be very disturbing. And people, if you're comfortable with it, you're going to get knocked down sometimes by people who think you're an American psycho. And this is not the case, right? It's the ultimate case is that everyone, no matter who you are, experiences a distribution of different ontologies throughout their life. The question is, can you match the manifold, so to speak? Can you transform the distribution of your experience over time? So I'm gonna be a solipsist next week, I'm gonna be a panpsychist tomorrow, yada yada. And a funny quote I came up with last night that I decided to share with some of my friends is that a panpsychist is just a solipsist playing pretend. And this is the whole idea, right? So why it's useful is where's the room? Why would you pretend to have anxiety talking to, your boss or your really pretty friend who you want to go on a date with or you're on a date with? Why would you, as a solipsist, there's no reason to presuppose anxiety or tension or hesitation. Yes, there's good tension, like sexual energy sexual tension, you can build that up. But don't ever think that as a solipsist, the game doesn't change. It's not just all in your head and you're like, oh, it's very aesthetic. No, solipsism is functional. It has functional utility in the sense of no fear. Like you're in a fight or someone pulls a gun on you, you simply move the gun. It's not a big deal. In fact, you could even speech them out into submission, right? You could speech them to holster their 9mm, right? So it's very interesting what can happen. Now, if in a normal situation, people would be very afraid. They would be scared to death. And this is only presupposed by this idea that you live in a stochastic system, right? Solipsism doesn't presuppose, but as the parameters of solipsism roll out and the trajectory of your weeks and months as a solipsist is experienced, you start to realize all these serendipities and synchronicities actually are part of a song. It's all a beautiful song, and you're not only the listener, but you're the composer. You've composed, orchestrated, and listened to your entire creation. This is also an interesting point I should mention on recommendation systems or recommender systems, whether that be YouTube or Twitter or Instagram. And it's not just people or on a sociological order, it's anything from science to this and that. You don't understand all the details unless you do literal data mining on, like, okay, so this girl is friends with this guy and they do this for work, etc. Or, oh, this paper has to do with this, which is a part of a field I haven't actually studied yet. What you can understand is that you manifest that feed. That when, especially under the influence of solipsism, you realize that this is what I wanted to see. Like, I didn't know. It's interesting. It's a paradox, right? Because you didn't know you wanted to see it, but you know you like it. And in some cases, especially with scientific articles, it is something that fits the puzzle piece together. If it's something that adds meaning or some type of logic to your life, that's very interesting to me. And you could argue, go down a rung back into being a normie and consider this idea that, oh, it's just like probabilistically there's this idea that we have all these researchers and all these media people doing the same content basically, and it's just a matter of a chance, maybe a fat chance to be quite literal, that you would see something similar to what you've been thinking about. But if this goes like extremely deep in some circumstances. Like, you could literally be thinking about a very niche topic, and then seconds later you turn on your Twitter feed and that content or something that answers your question to that content on a very detail-oriented level appears. This is actually evidence for solipsism. This is evidence for the idea that nothing is real and that you're the only one who's real. And why am I telling you this? Well, that's really interesting, right? So why is an NPC, Chosen One Institute, telling you about the truth from a solipsistic frame? Well, I don't know. I do like to teach, but why do you care about me? You don't. You don't care about me. You care about the information I can give you and the keys I can give you. But, until and I'll be personal for a second, until I start showing receipts and and then you could still argue like, oh, you're a solipsist, that's how you got rich. You're a solipsist, that's how you got jacked. You're a solipsist, yada yada. That's actually not good evidence, right? You just sort of have to take people's word for it and then live it and accept it. Nobody's going to be able to prove an ontology that's between their ears in a private language, in a private logic. And that's another thing. Like, you have to learn to unlearn a lot of these probability-based habits and thought-based habits. Like, especially if you still have prediction error. And this is not easy, right? Like, solipsism is not. You can't just say, "Oh, I was a solipsism for a week and I hated it." No, you weren't a solipsist. You were just playing with the idea. You didn't get the fruits. You're not strong enough to get the fruits of solipsism. Metaphysics is not a joke. People get degrees in this. They do PhDs in fucking that it's a serious discipline, and unless it's taken seriously and studied and understood. There's some people, you know, who've made videos, but they've taken them down because it's such a powerful, fringe, potent philosophy of solipsism that it causes people to lose their mind. And what we say is those are people who can't, you know, in the black community, they say those are people who can't handle, you know, I don't know, they handle their sauce or whatever, right? Like they can't handle their energy, so they go crazy. And, you know, that's a shame. But if you do it proper, you know, you'll understand that there's much to be had here. And remember, solipsism is not the end-all be-all. There's even higher levels of realization. There's levels like panpsychism and stuff like that. I don't really like panpsychism. I never vibed with it too much. But who knows, maybe I'm benighted and I have yet to be someone enlighten me, like another YouTuber, right, into the lens of panpsychism or something. But we're getting very interesting. I think the next few videos will start to get into main character and paranormal activity, and we'll see how that goes.